What is a gut instinct? What is intuition? Well, despite what some may think, that this is some made up bullshit, it actually is backed by science. Now, I didn't know this. I thought this was some sort of magical human power that has no explanation up until researching for this episode. It is absolutely backed by science. Here's the thing, okay? We're constantly having experiences. And as we have these experiences, we're storing all of that data about the experiences that we're having in our head. And a lot of that data is going into our subconscious. It's not even necessarily reaching our conscious mind. We can only store so much in our conscious mind. A lot of things just end up living in our subconscious mind. But it is not just sitting in our unconscious mind collecting dust, because it is to be used later to help us make intuitive decisions. Your mind continually receives and processes information without you even knowing that it's happening. So online, I found a neuroendocrinologist named Dr. Chopra, and he says, when we get a strong gut feeling, it's actually every cell in our body remembering, thinking, and deciding on the matter at hand. If you say, I have a gut feeling about such and such, you're not speaking metaphorically, you're speaking literally. Your gut makes the same chemicals that your brain makes when it thinks. The nervous system in your gut doesn't have the ability to doubt itself like your central nervous system does. I also found a neuropsychologist named Nawal Mustafa, who said around 95% of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut, which influences emotions and mood. Gut signals are then transmitted to the brain through the release of serotonin. So basically, when some problem, dilemma, question comes up that has no distinct answer, your body will start producing chemicals. Those chemicals then travel to your brain and give you a gut feeling. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm trying to explain it in a way that makes sense to me. But the moral of the story is your body knows more than you think it does. Your gut instinct, your gut feeling, it's not just you coming to a conclusion based on nothing. There actually is There's actually something going on there. And it's interesting because it's almost like your gut instinct is your body and brain's memory being used to the best of its ability, because your gut instinct is kind of pulling from your memories, even the ones that you don't consciously remember. Whereas your conscious mind is playing in a much smaller sandbox. There's much less to work with. Your subconscious has a lot more to work with. That is a big sandbox. That's like a playground. Your conscious mind can only comprehend so much at once. You see what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe I don't understand this very well. I should bring somebody on the show who understands this really well and really dig in. So that's what a gut feeling is. That's what intuition is. But what does it feel like? I had my own ideas about what gut instinct feels like, but I wanted to do some research and figure out what the universal experience is. And it actually helped me understand what I'm feeling when I have a gut instinct even more. So, according to various reports on the internet and my personal experience, a gut feeling just feels right. It just feels true. And you can't necessarily explain why, but it's an almost immediate, like, yeah, that's it. And I know that that sounds so simple and obvious, but that's sort of what makes it so special, is the fact that it comes to you and it just sort of arrives in your brain and body. A lot of times you can also feel your gut instinct. Like you can physically feel your instinct. Like, for example, let's say you're trying to decide whether or not you should move across the country and you can't decide because there are pros and cons to moving versus not moving. Well, if you're getting a feeling of lightness, openness, energy when you think about moving, that's your intuition telling you, okay, I should move. If your body feels tight, heavy, or slow when you think about moving, then that's your intuition telling you that's not what we want to do. When I think about times that I've made decisions based on intuition, this has applied so strongly. For example, going to college for me always felt sort of mandatory. Like I never even analyzed how I felt about it because it just felt so mandatory. And then when my path in life sort of shifted and I was able to ask myself for the first time, do you want to go to college? I realized not going made me feel light and open and energized, even though at the time that was a really risky decision, actually, because I didn't have a large savings of money. I'm not in the type of family situation where I could live off of my parents' money. And so I would have been totally fine if I had decided to go to college later and my career didn't end up working out. Like I would have been fine. I could have figured it out, but it was still risky, right? But I went with the route that felt light and energized and excited, even though it was scary. And even though I was frightened, it still felt like the right decision. Now, that's not to say that you should only do things when they're accompanied by light energy, Now, it's complicated because I don't want this to get misconstrued. This mode of decision making only applies for situations that do not have a concrete answer. When you're faced with a moral dilemma, you know what the right thing to do is, and sometimes doing the right thing feels heavy, slow, uncomfortable, scary, awful. I feel like when there's a moral dilemma, there is a concrete answer. It's doing what the right thing is to do. And everyone knows what the right thing to do is deep down. Not everyone, I guess. But I don't know. I think for the most part, when it comes to moral dilemmas, deep down, your moral compass is telling you what the right thing to do is. Sometimes we ignore that and we go and do the wrong thing. But to me, moral dilemmas have usually a concrete answer. There's a lot of nuance here, okay? I'm getting exhausted from all of it. But I think the moral of the story is a lot of times your gut feeling will take you in a direction that feels the most smooth, that feels the most seamless, that gives you the most energy. Now, let's discuss how to use your gut feelings to your advantage. To start, you have to know when to use it. I just touched on that, but I'll touch on it again. Not every problem should be solved using your gut instinct, okay? I think we've covered that enough. But I do have some examples of when it does make sense to listen to your gut. Number one, in creative endeavors. I mean, there's no better time to trust your intuition than when you're being creative. Also, win-win situations when no matter what direction you go in, you're going to win, okay? Also, lose-lose situations where no matter what direction you go in, you might lose or you will lose, Decisions that aren't dangerous. Okay, if your gut is telling you to do something that's really dangerous, I don't know if I can condone that, okay? That's a bad sign, and you shouldn't follow your gut then. Relationships. I do think a lot of times our gut instinct can tell us a lot about another person that we can't even pick up on in our conscious mind. And I don't know. I think gut instinct is a great tool in relationships. Although trust issues can kind of get in the way of your gut instinct in a relationship, because you can be like, I'm always being cheated on, but it's like, no, that's your trust issues from your past relationship. So that can get a little complicated, but you have to know when it makes sense to trust your gut. I also think in order for you to use your gut feelings to your advantage, you have to give your body and mind the space to show you your intuition. Like, if your brain is filled with the ideas of other people, the ideas of the media, lots of noise and stimulation, your brain is going to have a hard time presenting to you your intuition. You're going to have so much distraction. You're going to have so much stimulation. You're not even going to be able to figure out what's your intuition versus what's the idea of others versus what's just empty noise. You know, like, it's very hard to be in touch with your intuition if your brain is too overwhelmed. You have to give your intuition room to shine because it's never going to scream at you. Your gut instinct will never shout at you. It'll never say, hey, over here, listen to me. You have to give your gut instinct the space to present what it needs to present. When I'm going through a tough time and there's a problem that I need to solve, and I'm kind of relying on my intuition to tell me what direction to go, I really try to practice next level mindfulness and centeredness. And I'll lean into things like meditating. I'll lean into things like journaling, because those things quiet the mind and really connect everything in the mind and the body in a way that allows the intuition to shine. And it's hard at times to let your intuition shine, which is why it's important to know how to let it shine when you need it. I mean, there are times when your intuition is just sitting right on your shoulder, ready to help you whenever you need it. But there are also times when your intuition doesn't feel like it's right there on your shoulder. Maybe you left it at home or something. That's what it feels like. And that's just because you're not giving your intuition the space and the quietness to say what it needs to say. So that's my pitch on why you should consider trusting your gut when it comes to problem solving. You know, obviously there are some rules and regulations, okay? We've covered those enough, but I think everyone should try to lean into their intuition and lean into their gut instinct, because there's a lot of value there that I think a lot of people are ignoring because they feel like it's not a real legitimate way to problem solve, but it is. And I've been doing it for way too long, since before I even had the evidence to back the fact that it actually is a legitimate way to problem solve. I was like taking it to the extreme since day one, like saying, I'm not going to college because I just don't feel like it. My body says no. My brain says no. My gut says no. Not going. Oops. Like, that's a crazy decision to make based on your gut instinct, but I did it. And honestly, no regrets. Not saying that that's going to work for everyone. Okay. So we all have a different path in life. Just saying, trust in your gut. It's kind of the move these days.